The story begins as we see the undead king casting a curse upon the Knight of Light. The Knight of Light mentions, "You deserve to be called the nightmare of this continent, and I will defeat you alongside my comrades, and we shall win." We then see they are about to clash swords, and then we see our MC drinking on a can of Coke or something, and he mentions it's just a play after all. It's all in his imagination, and he's eating some fried chicken. These two characters are played by him in his imagination, and he really wonders how it came to this. We see it is a beautiful day outside, and a very nice blue sky. Somebody opens up the door, and we hear, "Are you Mr. Han Seung-seong?" This guy is with the Transmission Investigation Division of the Superpower Control Bureau, and our MC says, "Well, I don't have any powers," and look at his face right here, he looks kind of gloomy and sad he didn't get any. Anyway, he says, "I'll check up again with you later, and if you do awaken, make sure to come to the bureau." And our MC is just looking there, and he literally has a walking stick, and he says, "Have a good day." We find out that the exchange with an outsider after half a year has ended, and he won't have to open the door in another 6 months, and our MC hasn't been outside for 2 years. Oh my gosh, this is kind of reminding me of myself. Just kidding, guys. Anyway, we see his house is super dirty, and he calls himself pathetic, and even some would also call him weak-willed. He says that I really am a victim of this cruel world, but come on bro, you're just, a bit lazy. We then see on the news that fire authorities are working to extinguish this fire area because somebody has awakened and committed a random crime. He's looking at this as we see his eyes, and he doesn't like this. We find out that one day, randomly, humanity awakened these powers, and of course they were called superpowers, a very unique name for it. Anyways, upon awakening, one is going to be transferred to another world in 24 hours, as you see an example right in front of us. If certain conditions are met, they can return to Earth, but only a few survived and they returned, and we see the image of the guy who set the bank on fire to rob it. They wanted to do this because they weren't sure if they were going to make it back. And we find out that 2 years ago, our MC almost lost his leg because of one of those crimes. He says even the courage to stand up again is something hard, and he's working right here using his leg extensions, and it seems like he can barely do it. He really wonders why he is even working out if it won't have an effect, and he also mentions how he literally panics just from opening the door. He really wondered if he could leave and go anywhere. A system notification pops up out of nowhere, your typical system, mentioning that he is now connecting to the Akasha system. He begins to awaken a skill, and he really wonders if he's going to awaken like this, and his awakened skill is called Avatar. We then see he has 24 hours before he gets transported, and he says, "Really? Me? Is this some sort of sick joke?" He's of course wondering what the heck he's going to do now, and he was going to be forcibly taken if he is not ready. He then tries to run away from the system, and yeah guys, he's definitely panicking. He then goes and searches for some clothes to put on, wondering if he can even survive this mess. We find out there are 3 minutes left before he gets transported, and did our bro take 23 hours and 57 minutes to look for some clothes? We see our MC, I'm guessing he packed up everything, and this guy just looks like he's about to take a hike on a field trip or something. He's still wearing his walker, which is kind of unfortunate. He then steps onto it, and he says, "I can't even go outside. How am I going to do this?" He then begins to get anxious, and he then really ponders and closes his eyes, imagining things. He says, "Wait, skills. That's exactly what I am going to do. I have my own superpowers, and so let me see what my ability does." Activate Avatar skill, and there is somebody who hops right in front of him, and it is a clone of himself. He says, "What the heck? I literally see 2 of my faces. Could this really be? I'm sharing sight with my avatar." He says, "This is actually making me kind of dizzy. There's only 59 seconds left, and so he says, whatever, even though it is an avatar, it's not completely useless, right?" And he really wonders, why does my superpower have to be me? Because I'm already a kind of trash person. Just kidding, guys. Although he doesn't have any unique abilities. No offense to you. He says if only somebody could go there instead of me, and that's exactly what he does. He then sends the avatar to the transport circle, and the avatar begins to get transported into the other world. The transport to the outer Rika dimension is now complete, as you see his avatar right here in the middle of a forest. He wonders, wait, I sent the avatar, so why am I here? He can return to Earth via the return option in the karma shop, and so pretty much you have to collect karma, which can be used in your adventure. Suddenly, he gets a brain freeze, or maybe a brain shock, and Oh my gosh, he's sharing sight with his avatar. So one of his arms is looking at the house and his other arms is looking in the forest. And he is so dizzy and he uses dismiss avatar. And he is back right behind or right in front of his leg extension machine. And well, he goes to the toilet instantly to puke. Sorry, viewer discretion is advised, mentioning at least I avoided transport. And he then summons his avatar and he is there right now. He really wonders, what can I do with his useless powers? He receives a gift because he returned to Earth without the karma shop, and well, once per day he can travel to a previously visited location via the transport field, and he really is taken aback. And look at our MC's eye bags, this guy really needs to sleep. His karma has greatly increased, and he says, what the heck? I became the awakened who returned to Earth in the shortest time, and I'm going to say that took around maybe 2 or 3 seconds. Anyway, his karma is 1.9 million. Our bro really out here just farming for free, or he just got an infinite money glitch, or karma glitch. He says, almost 10 years worth was accumulated in one go, so what should I do? We find out karma is given based on the impact you've had in the other world. You can do good deeds, even evil deeds, eliminating people and labor, and it can be used to strengthen skills or return to Earth. He then begins to ponder, wait a second, is this some sort of glitch? What if they ask me to give it back later? I wouldn't even want to do that. He then gets smile and all happy, saying, I didn't do anything wrong anyway, so returning back there would be a waste. We see strengthen status window. He then clicks on it and he really wonders what this is. We then see his health right here, and he can use a recoverability enhancement for 10,000 karma. He clicks it, and all of a sudden, his legs feel a sensation. He can feel the injury on his leg, and it begins to heal. He mentions this wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a scar as well for his entire family, and that's why he locked himself away from the world. The recoverability surpassed the threshold, and our MC's feet seem to have literally been fixed right now. He of course obtains super recovery, and this is going to be helpful if he encounters any dangers. We find out that he poured karma into healing his leg injury, and he literally is going crazy on the leg extension machine. He is so happy. He clicks on strengthen unique skill 300,000, and well, something begins to happen. He says, what if I use this on my avatar? He then says, this guy looks quite manly, and even the avatar responds, you look pretty fit yourself, you've been working out or something. And he then says, my consciousness splits into 2, allowing me to move freely, and hopefully this guy just doesn't have schizophrenia or something. Just kidding. We see Mind Hub, filter stimuli and emotions, allowing only desired information to be received. He then hits himself, saying, I won't get dimension sick. Even if my avatar gets hurt, I won't feel pain. So he really wonders if he can adventure through the other world with the comfort of his room, like playing a video game, and our MC really has lost it from not going outside. He says that's not all. He now has 3 of himself. Oh my gosh. And he really wonders if he should give everyone else a name. He says, you know what? I got it. He then looks at a Hans coffee cup and calls one of them Hans, and well, that's exactly what the name becomes, and the other one will be Heinz, like the ketchup, and our MC really has a unique naming skill. Just kidding. Nonetheless, they seem kind of mediocre because obviously they are clones, and so he really wants to begin a main quest. He says, let's go to the outside world, and the most hardest mission right now is taking out a year's worth of trash. He is now outside as we see the sun, and he mentions my mind hub is working perfectly. It looks like Hans has safely arrived into the other world, and there it is actually nighttime. He seems to have a dagger, but there is something sparkling in a bush, and it is a panther, and really, just instantly, it goes to attack our MC, but our boy brings out his sword or his little dagger, and he doesn't even know how to unsheath it, and so the panther just bites it. He says, even though I don't feel fear or pain here, for me, this is kind of scary though. He then brings out his dagger using magic infusion and says this is just like playing a game, and that panther was dead in 1 hit. He says it is pretty weak, so I guess I'm really stronger, but mentioning that if he runs into any other monsters, things might not go his way. He then spots a village in the corner of his eye, and this is starting to remind me of Clash of Clans. Oh, just kidding guys, it's starting to remind me of a lot of magic animes or manhwas. Of course, it is an old guy greeting our MC, saying that he is Malcolm, the village chief, and Malcolm says, it's impressive you made it through that monster-infested forest. That's quite impressive. And our MC literally just took out 1 panther, but hey, that is impressive nonetheless. He says, could I please impose on the village for 1 night and stay here? And Malcolm says, yeah, let's help each other, dude, you got it. He puts his hands behind his back like a typical old man in an anime or manhwa, and he says, your clothes are quite good. as well as unique, and he wondered if he came from far away. The old man mentions, we haven't seen an outsider in a while, so let's drink at the tavern. Our MC is laying down, living his best life, saying a room and a drink. This is so awesome. However, somebody's in the room with him as well, and this might not go as planned. Our MC is drinking beer in real life, and he's always eating on this Korean chicken, and by the way, Korean chicken tastes awesome. And then he looks to his left saying, I feel kind of bad for Heinz because our boy Heinz is literally just working out. He says, as long as my duplicates are working, I should figure out how the new world actually works as well. And he also wants to see what this world is because he hasn't been out in like 2 years. He says, wait a second. What's with this ominous feeling? One of his avatars has been killed. Oh my gosh. He says, what? Hans actually died? What's going on here? And can we get a rest in peace for Hans? And yeah. Hopefully he gets a new clone soon. Our MC is still shocked that Hans died, and he of course sees the notification while we see Heinz eating some chicken in the background. He mentions it must have been that old guy's doing, and he wonders if he spiked his drink or something. He then gets kind of worried, mentioning, I was too complacent in an unfamiliar place, but suddenly he reconnects to his avatar. The old man mentions, I thought he'd be useful, but he's actually completely plain. He says that although he passed through the village's forest, you know what? All he was an elite skeleton at best. As you see our MC and his body right here, and all his flesh is gone, except for the bones. He is then looking at his hand, which is now made out of bones, and we find out that he changed into his undead, and also he obtained a decomposed heart skill. And Hans is now an elite skeleton, and he has mana affinity. He also has become an undead, so his mind hasn't been corrupted though because of the mind hub, and he really wonders, where the heck am I? He looks around, and there are a bunch of different creatures or summons, or there are also other undeads as well as some zombies or something. He says, could it be that these people were actually turned into undeads by the dude? Somebody walks in and he wonders who it is, and of course he pretends that he is not possessed or, alive. The guy walking with his pocket really mentions, why do I have to be here for so long, dude? I'm getting lazy. He looks at our MC and he wonders, wait, I feel like that skeleton was just looking at me. Am I losing my mind or something? He says, yeah, whatever. Nobody is actually doing their job properly. And so he commands the skeleton to go and join the rest of them. He stands up pretending he is actually following the command, and he really says that old dude is way too, thorough with his job, and he says, that's an extremely familiar power. The same power that is moving my dead body. I wonder if it's because of my mana affinity. He is now blended into the crowd, or at least the once alive crowd, and it seems like he'll be able to control the other undead, and this is a week later in that world. Our MC is sitting on top of the box as he's looking down on one of the skeleton knights. His eyes turn blue like he uses the 6 eyes. The skeleton stands up, and he's finally to control the other undead, as we see these guys literally doing a dance, and our MC really is just too funny. We then see a little mouse on our MC's legs, and he then grabs it, and he says, I finally caught you, and he says this guy's too fast, so he says, wait a second, what if I do this and make him an undead instead of a human? And he wonders to give it a try, and just like that, he eliminates the rat. He brings it back to life, and it is a success. He calls him Alfred, and it seems like he's going to control him and see and really find out what the conversations are outside. We then see it is now crawling outside, and he looks at the dude who locked them in. This guy keeps on saying pretty much that he's going to make sure this old geezer pays for all of this. He then opens up a lock, and our MC wonders if he should follow this dude, and he sees or senses an incredible amount of dark mana, and he really wonders if he can go through this. He then walks in nonetheless, and this guy is talking to some other dude, pretty much talking about when the ripening process will begin. He says, won't it be soon? My master is stuck there every day. He looks up to the sky, which seems to be kind of like a rainbow, and he really wonders who the heck would sneak in. Our MC is very glad that he got the info, and he needs to gather more information on the immortal king. He says, where would the village chief be? But he suddenly gets pierced right through his heart. And the old man Malcolm says, it was really just a rat. He wonders how he got caught as we see that purple sort of dark mana pierce through him. He says, on undead, I don't feel the energy of black magic, but it's filled with dark mana. This is quite interesting. Our MC then falls to the ground and he says, sorry Alfred, I'll make sure to take revenge on your behalf. And our MC kind of looks like Sans from Undertale. I don't know if you guys agree with me. The dungeon keeper then kicks open the door, saying how or who would have thought that a rat would come out of here. He then mentions, everybody stand in line right now. He calls him foolish as he even punches one in the face, and this guy has no mercy. And he then crouches down, saying, what do we have here? Look at this. Isn't this the arrogant guy that really rebelled against me? What if I mess with your family. He then smirks like he is some sort of JoJo villain, and of course he says this guy is no fun, and bro, this guy literally isn't alive. Anyway, he mentions you must be happy that you're with your wife, but then right behind him is a monster, and he bites on the dude's neck, and he comes to the ground, and this guy is of course getting super scared. We find out that this guy is able to use even the slightest bit of magic, and right behind him is a woman who grasps onto him and they begin to attack him. We then see our MC in the background just noticing this with his spider senses, and his eyes begin to glow, saying this is now the beginning of the victim's revenge. And yeah bro, you should have not messed with this dude. We then see the guards pushing off this person right in front of them, and this guy mentions, I'm telling you, my younger sibling is in the village. He then says, what makes you think we should let an outsider in? He says, let me see the chief, please. We then see the chief right behind watching this commotion, and he says, I am the village chief. And a guy, oh my gosh, he says, hello chief, and the chief is really spooked by what's happening. He says, I think my twin sibling Hans is somewhere around here, and yeah, this is so funny, our MC went here with another clone. Our MC is standing amidst this circle of this sort of energy aura in the middle, saying because of Heinz, I got in so easily. And our MC says, so this is a fragment of the Immortal King. There's a bunch of power in here, and he also mentions it's absorbing the powers of the undead around him. However, as he looks around, everybody here is so insanely strong, and this kind of looks like the place that he was in before, like for warehouse projects. And you know what? He just grabs a stone, saying that it pisses him off, and so he says, I'm gonna go and eat this. And look at our MC. He definitely looks super menacing. Look at this guy. Looks like he's gone rogue. He then puts it within his body, and we then see Heinz just talking and pretty much explaining how they are twins. He then explains, you know, we can always tell where each other is. And Malcolm says, that's quite hard to believe. And just at the moment, he looks behind him and goes to the other officer saying, something's wrong with the fragment. Eliminate that dude. The old man then becomes a dark shadow and literally becomes a dark little ant shadow or something, and he just flies away. And of course, they then point their spears towards Heinz, but Heinz is nowhere to be found. We then see Hans right here, and he's holding on to his head like, oh my gosh, an overwhelming flood of negative emotions just went through my mind. He really begins to ponder, and he is getting so nervous, and he says even though the Mind Hub is helping, this is way too intense. He yells out saying, is there anyone who could withstand this with their own sanity? We then see a huge explosion of light and darkness. And oh my gosh, the entity met the conditions, guys, and our MC begins to evolve, and he is now a Demi-Lick, which is an immortal mage, and yo, he acquires wisdom. As you see, his heart is now that purple stone, and he also has the ability in dark magic. The guy watching, you know, the dungeon keeper, says, you know what, I couldn't even manage a zombie rat, and now this is the mess I've got on my hands. We hear, oh you trash. He wonders what exactly that is, and he then communicates to his master who talked to him through telepathy, and he explains, go and get the fragment and make sure that it is alright. He then says, alright, I will do so. He then, of course, goes towards the door, and he sees somebody standing there menacingly, and it is a monster, and multiple of them, as our MC controls the ogres and such to go and attack him. He says, the weather's really nice today, isn't it? He then spots, how the heck is it talking? Because he spots the heart, and it is a fragment stone, and this guy is dead meat, as we see that the door is about to get bashed in. The door finally falls down, and our MC says, hello. Your greeting really hurt my feelings, as a lot of the undead begin to walk out of the door. And he explains, you know what, even though I have dark magic, I already know how to use it, even though it hasn't been too long, and now this is the end for you. We see a huge explosion as the onlookers are looking, and our MC steps outside. He says, don't let a single one escape, and eliminate every human in the village, and they go and fulfill his wishes. One of them then falls to the ground, and it seems like the Malcolm has actually have some dark powers as well, saying, you should have definitely become an elite skeleton. What did you do with the fragment of the Immortal King? And this is Marcus Gyokali, and he is actually a Vow of Defiance elder. He then says, it's been a while, Chief. You don't remember me, do you? He then explains, yeah, I actually lost my heart because you killed me, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know, I just replaced it right here as he opens up his robe, and it is a fragment of the Immortal King, and this guy gets furious. And he says, really? Why is that in your body? He then commands some sort of dark energy lightning in the sky, and he uses the Finger of Death. He goes to attack our MC with this black lightning, but our MC just dodges it. And well, he actually didn't, as he loses his arm. And he says, do you know it's not polite and to wait and not attack while somebody's talking? This guy then, of course, then uses more of his finger abilities, and we see 4 of these cobra-like darkness coming towards our MC. This is a thorn of darkness as it encapsulates our MC, but he's literally safe because of a barrier that was put up. He says, so what? I'm the only one who can make it work like this, and yep, this is way too easy. Marcus begins to keep on attacking him, this evil lick, or this evil mage, and our MC just yells out, just die already, you were Alfred's enemy, you eliminated him. The mage is like, wait, Alfred? Who the heck is Alfred? Did you know somebody in this village? Did you infiltrate here because of that? But he doesn't know he's talking about the rat. He then attacks this dude from behind, and he barely manages to dodge. He says this is not the important part. This guy's way too accustomed to dark magic, only in a few moments. How is this possible? He then says, pact of destruction, and we see all the other people fighting the undead, and we see one of their souls leave their body, and he says, what's wrong with you? But everyone in the village, dark energy begins to come out of them, and it seems like there is a crown that begins to form, which is a crown of the broken, and this guy puts it on, and this is a resting place of the dead, and this dude really thinks he's a Clash Royale king or something. Our MC yells out, really? You took the souls of your mages just for this? This guy begins to look even crazier by the second, but he suddenly gets hit right in the heart, and he falls down as he is powering up his attack, and our MC is not going to let him finish up his move, and he just broke the anime rules. Nonetheless, he licks his skull. That kind of sounds weird, because he doesn't have any flesh, and he says, I'm learning dark magic to you very well. And this guy is about to die, and he just falls down, and yeah, our MC really doesn't care about the story, because he's not letting anybody power up. He then says as he looks in the sky, are you watching? I've made sure to revenge you, or to avenge you. And it is Alfred, as he gives a thumbs up, and he literally became the moon in the sky. This is way too funny. We then see in a beautiful kingdom of such, there is a nun kneeling down on the ground. She says, Bishop Martin, I finished a prayer. He says, oh, you already did. And this is actually not a nun, but this is Saint Restar. She then says, please, I need to contact the others as she has something holding dear to her chest. She says that I felt a sign of the Immortal King's presence, and he says, Nani? The Immortal King? And of course, he says, I got it, I'll get this meeting done. She says as she gets kind of nervous, this dude, his resurrection was one what plunged the continent 100 years ago, and if something like that happens again, she looks outside, that this will definitely mean the destruction of the earth, and I can't let that happen. And W guys, maybe this might even become our MC's waifu, you never know. Our MC marches forward as he says 100 were undead, but they were almost all wiped out. He then says, if your troops are reduced, we just have to replenish them, as he has a little sparkling thing, meaning he has an idea. But then he looks down on his arm and remembers, oh yeah, I just lost an arm, and bro just casually said that. He sees another skeleton warrior and he just rips it out of the socket, or is it technically a socket? Whatever, he just rips it out and he attaches it. He uses activate super recovery, and just like that, it's time to begin. He then uses his power and he begins to literally just go Super Saiyan or whatever enlightenment mode is. He begins to glow purple. He then comes back up, and it seems like the fragment of the Immortal King is lending them their power, and they are brought back, but then he suddenly shatters and he wonders why, and it's probably because you don't know how to use the technique, bro. Anyway, we see the other undeads, the skeletons, as well as the zombies, and he then puts he crosses his arms, and he's like, wait a second, I'm starting to get the hang of this. He then looks behind him at the mage, and he says, I should turn this dude into an undead, huh? But then he suddenly is shocked by something. He mentions that this dude doesn't actually have a soul, and it was actually extracted through a magic circle where his heart usually is. He drops him down like he's a piece of trash, or oh my gosh, this guy's so brutal. He says, whatever, I'll use his body. He then begins to form up some sort of Rasengan in his hand, and he mentions, I'm gonna turn him into a top tier undead with self-awareness and fighting skills. And so it seems like he's gathering the remaining thoughts and planning the ego, and this man is the Death Wizard. He has a purple eye as well as a red eye, and then our boy just unlocked the Rinnegan and Sharingan. Nonetheless, he says, I await your order. He says, there. Don't worry, you really have respect for me and you know how to speak. Your name is Malcolm from now on. Obey my words. And then he doesn't say anything, and our MC just smacks him in the face. Of course, the Death Wizard just scratches his head, or skull technically, and he says, oh, sorry about that, master. He then yells out for Malcolm, and he immediately says, what is it? He says, that cane looks pretty nice. He begins to shake, and it seems like our MC just stole it from him. He looks at the zombie, and he says, this is the person who eliminated Jeffy with me. He then puts him up, and he says, "May you rest in peace," as he burns the entire corpses of skeletons as well as zombies, and this is such a sad kind of scene. We then see somebody here eating, and it is no one else than our MC, and he literally mentions, "Let's see, what is the price of gold?" He says that the place that he actually raided was occupied with gold, and so our MC can definitely sell it in for a lot, and our MC really is just a goat. He takes a look at the loot, and he summons Hans right here, who looks absolutely cold and menacing. We see his beautiful blue eye come into existence, and he says, "What the heck? Cancel summon." He suddenly gets scared like he was about to die, and he really wonders, "I have to really summon Hans. Should I strengthen my skill or something?" And that's exactly what he does, as we see the karma shop begin to crystallize. We then see the karma shop, and he mentions, "Whoa, I have way more than expected," because he only had like 400,000 the last time, but now he has 792,000, and that is absolutely crazy. He then gets a notification saying that the number of avatars increases, as well as his mental strength, and he also unlocks an ability called Serenity, and it seems like it prevents the mind from being swayed by external stimuli and mental attacks, and our boy is not going to get, rizzed by some sort of succubus or something. He is picking up the gold, the necklaces, as well as the other stuff he found in the dungeon, and he then gives it to Hans, who is then organizing it, and he mentions, "Even though I'm standing next to Hans, it seems like Serenity can be applied to my main body too." And so he always mentions how it is strange to get the skills he needs. It really is a weird process. He says, "You know what, everyone, let's go and sell this gold." We see a backpack, 2 bags filled with gold coins, and these guys just looking at it are like, "What? Who exactly is this man?" They then bow down as their MC walks away, and he says, yeah, keep up the work, and they say thank you for your patronage. Our MC is walking, but oh gosh guys, he stumbles upon somebody, and it is literally Hans, and he's thinking if he should use a mask on him, but come on. We see a huge explosion in the bank, and there is a giant werewolf. He says, "I hit the jackpot today," and they're holding on to our MC's gold, and there also is a thief with a bandana. He says, "Who would have thought there was so much gold in this place?" This guy says, yeah, let's save the talk for later, and let's get the heck out of here. The thief then jumps onto the wolf's back, or the werewolf, and this werewolf he has a bag in his hand like he is holding his mom's shopping stuff when she goes to the mall, and that takes hours. Anyway, of course, he stumbles upon our MC, and our MC mentions these dudes are known as villains, and they commit crimes after they awaken their power. He says, "I thought they were supposed to protect," but he gets a flashback to when he of course got injured before, and he knows that that isn't the case. He then gets uppercutted and punched right in the face. Oh gosh. The werewolf then begins to run away. Our MC says the guardians will probably track them down, but I can't do anything. These guys are actually managing to get away, and he says it takes around 3 minutes and 30 seconds for the guardians to arrive. They've probably done this before. We then see, who is that? There's a portal right there, and the lady seems to have she got knocked out by a skeleton, and it is our MC summon Hans, and they then wonder if he is a guardian. Of course, he says in his head, Han Song-yeon can't do anything. And we see some skeletons begin to emerge from the ground, and they are like, wait, what the? They literally put their hands up like they think this is the police or something. He says, "But I can, Hans can," and yeah, they definitely ran into the wrong opponents. Anyway, we then see the guardians running, and they're like, "Come on, we gotta get a move on this quickly." This is the South Korea Returners Association. These are actually the Guardians. This guy is so nervous. He then arrives on the scene, and he's like, "What the heck is going on here?" We see the bandits knocked out, as well as a werewolf coming back into his human form. And he says somebody fought these villains and disappeared. He has to be nearby. He then tells everybody and yells out, "Come on, we must search for this person. This person is going to be a great asset for us in the future." They then begin to search, but we see a shadow on the floor. I'm assuming that it is our MC, and that's exactly who it is. He then stretches, and he mentions how it's so refreshing, and relieving stress like this is really a good idea. But bro, you almost got all your gold stolen. We then see Heinz, and it is his second avatar. He is back in the fantasy world, and his only trait is durability. What the heck? He says, "I'm finally here." And he has finally arrived into a town. He then steps through the doors just like that, but then it's so empty, and this is not what he was expecting. He mentions there aren't anybody even interested in foreigners like me, but right behind him are people arguing. It seems like this guy with a tattoo on his neck of some sort of jaw mouth says to this little lady, "I warned you, didn't I?" She says, "Sorry, please forgive me." He says, nah, give us that 2 silver coins in 3 days, or else you will have no choice either but for us to hurt you and your loved ones. Our MC looks back like, heh, naruhodo, is this just another manhwa cliche girl in danger that I have to save scene? And that's exactly what happens as a lady runs into her MC as she apologizes. He says, do you know this town well? I actually need a guide. She then says, yeah, but who the heck are you? He then brings out 2 silver coins and says, I'm your soon-to-be employer. And of course, she's looking at the coins like, oh my gosh. Da-dun! Our MC is now in front of this awesome house. She says this is one of the better places that you can stay in, and we find out her name is Diana. She then asks if he likes it, and he says yeah. He gives her the 2 silver coins, and we find out that she was getting into a lot of trouble for not being able to tribute money, and so our MC says this is a good thing for me to do. He then lies down on the bed and he mentions this lady is going to be my guide every day for 2 coins or 2 silver coins, and he says I hope I'm not getting ripped off. Just kidding, I am, but who cares because I got a lot of gold. He says it's time to go to sleep, and he wakes up and somebody keeps sneezing. He wonders who it is, and oh my gosh guys, it is Diana, and she is literally having a runny nose as she says hello. He wonders why she is waiting for him at dawn, and yeah, this is way too funny. Our MC is eating his food, but he lost some appetite as he mentions, don't wait for me so early in the morning, just come during lunchtime. She says, yes sir, I got it. He says, also, I'm not a sir, I'm literally probably younger than you. He's probably not, but I'm not that old to be an uncle. And she then looks at his food and points, saying, are you done with that bread and eggs? And he says, really? You know what? You can go eat if you are hungry. She then stores it away for next time, and I really like this girl, Diana. She really seems like a funny person. The name of this town is Azanthu, and it is actually a small town in the western side of the Thalia kingdom. He says it really looks ordinary and such, but there is a symbol on the walls here forged with blood. He says this is written all over this city. He says it really is blood, and he asks about this. And he says, yesterday, you ate the soup that contains venison, right? She then says, yeah. Or no, he says, yeah, I did. And she says, I have a good sense of smell. And it seems like that's why she is a special beauty in this world. He then asks her, what exactly is the symbol? Could you tell me? She explains that that is called the Varkolak, and they oversee the road. And oh my gosh, of course, it's that cliche again, but who cares? This is going to be awesome. She says stop, and it seems like she smelled something, and she says, I smell the scent of a freshly baked bread. We need to go there right now. Of course, she then begins to run over there, and her MC is like, yeah, whatever. Something is deep in the alley though in this darkness, as we see somebody being lifted up or stepping out, as we see bloody boots here as well, and oh my gosh, this is going to be sinister. A few days later, our MC is waiting here, mentioning that she's never been late to their appointment. He then spots somebody pretty much talking, and it is the bald guy from before, and he then gives them some silver coins, and they get super happy. And yeah, our MC just skipped a beating or even a confrontation. He says that this guy has the same symbol as before, and he also has a scar on his eyes. He remembers that, of course, Diana was mentioning, don't even think about going to the back alleys, and you need to leave the city as soon as possible ASAP. And these guys are pretty much discussing about the kid who our MC was saving, Diana. And of course, he says, wait a second, could they be talking about Diana? Did they get them? Or did they get her? He says, screw it, as we see literal sweat coming through his gloves as well as his forearms. And he says, if it gets dangerous, I'll cancel the summon. He then says, I have a question. And right behind him is Diana. And oh my gosh, they then begin to crack their fists, like what is this dude curious about? He looks back saying, I was going to ask about the silver coins, was it enough sir? And well, they literally took everything, and our MC gets kind of pissed saying, it's way past our meeting time, where did you go? And you know, I spent so much money now, so yeah. It's pretty much just over for me. Just kidding, she says, my little brother disappeared. She then begins to cry, and she also explains that she got healthy because of the food that he's been giving, and he remembers the two were talking about a kid, and it seems like it was actually her little brother. He then says, was it Varkolak? What is the probability that this is actually them? She then begins to cry even more, because of course he tells them that they took a little kid. She then kneels on the ground, and she starts to go crazy. And her MC is like, wait, relax. She then says, if they really took him, they'll die. They don't want money, they want blood. And he says, blood? What the heck are you talking about? She then explains that this town, guys, is actually a storage for vampires, and that's why they need blood, and this is so cruel. We see a lot of bodies on the ground here. As somebody mentions, I smell dark mana, and it is very strong. He is standing on top of the roof of this house, and our bro really thinks he's the MC. He mentions, I was going to take it when it completely matured, but so what? I'll take it anyway, and we see that he is actually a vampire with his teeth, and he mentions, as he folds his arms very cockily, I'll be able to catch them in no time, and well, it seems like this guy's after the immortal heart that our MC stole. Hey guys, what's up? I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and without further ado, I'll see you guys in the next recap. Peace out.